Look, there are connections. There's throughout the years, there's always been connections with the Bears and Notre Dame. Always, always, always. Kevin Warren went to law school there. That's where he picked up his first client in Chris Zorich as he got into the football business. And I thought Potsy was wonderful again yesterday from the Sun-Times when we did our reporters' roundtable on making predictions. And he was trying to sell us on a couple of different names, and he said they love to talk about, I think it was Potsy, maybe it could have been Fishbane too. One of them talked about how they love to sell us that these guys overcome adversity. And a lot of times it's overcoming their own adversity. Like it's overcoming the Matt Eberflus adversity from 2 years ago where two of his coaches were fired for HR reasons and they had a 14-game losing streak. So they created their own mess and then they sort of overcame them. We love like you just said, this team this year, 4-2, lost one game, and they couldn't overcome one play. One play. Not even one game, one play they couldn't overcome. Now here's a young, up-and-coming head coach who is dynamic, who everyone says is a culture builder, and they could say, look at what he did. He took a team off the mat after getting upset at home to Northern Illinois, and he led them to the national title game and maybe to a national championship.
Maybe he could bring Riley Leonard's quarterback coach with him as well, right, Tyler? Who is that? Who's that magician?
Don't want him.
No? Okay.
Don't want him.
Boy, I was saying to you as well, as impressive as Notre Dame has been, the overall quarterback play at the collegiate level this year has been down. Certainly not what it was last year. But, Marcus Freeman, all of his, first of all, the performance of his team has been fantastic. And, he could truly, he dominates all of the interviews that he's a part of. He's very impressive. And I wish him well at Notre Dame. I think he'll have a nice, long career there and be very successful.
Yeah, he's the exact opposite of what they had as their last coach in Brian Kelly.
Yeah, Brian Kelly left because he said, the only way I can win a national championship is if I go to LSU. Yeah. Wouldn't you know, what has it been, 2 years later?
And Marcus Freeman's
in the national championship.
Well, he's got the biggest win in the state of Louisiana as well. He beat Georgia last week.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And Brian Kelly does not have a win that big in his own home state.
Take that, Brian Kelly.
And he's super likable.
Sitting at his house right now on his couch watching whatever it is, bright red face and angry and screaming at somebody.
Sure. I think he's
Brian
doing that.
Brian Kelly doing that?
Remember how he used to yell at Tommy Reese on the sideline?
Yeah.
How red-faced he gets. And I'm going back to when Tommy was the quarterback, not even the offensive coordinator. I'm going way back when he was the quarterback.
Bro, he used to just verbally abuse Tommy Reese. He probably still calls Tommy at the Cleveland facility and yells at him.
Yes. A lot of talk about Tommy Reese maybe being on the Vrabel staff or something like that to watch. He's, I believe now.
That's what Albert Breer has said.
The tight ends coach in Cleveland?
Is
that what he was coaching this year?
Yeah, something. I know he's with Cleveland. I don't know what his role is.
Been a coordinator, obviously, for a long time on the collegiate level, then got into the NFL coaching ranks this past year, last couple of years with Stefanski.
Here's a good question for you. If you're Marcus Freeman, why would you want the chaos of this franchise while you've got Notre Dame in a championship game going forward? Maybe the Notre Dame job, from his perspective, is a better job at the moment than the Bears job.
Well, it depends what they're paying, too, doesn't it?
I bet you Notre Dame's giving him $8-10 million a year.
Yeah, that's what I heard the guy say. It's like 8, 9, or 10, somewhere in that area. It's a lot of money. He's getting a lot of money. And then that's the other part of this. I heard Carmen and Yurko talk about it with the Bears' salary. And I think if anything on this that I'm confident about, we talked at this time yesterday about benefit of the doubt. I think you've talked me into this. I think some of their actions have talked me into this. I do believe that if they identify the coach, or if Ben Johnson says to them, I'll come and be your coach, and he's their guy, I need this amount of money, I think they'll pay it. I don't think they'll stop short. Here's what I was worrying about yesterday, Waddle. What I need them to do is not stop at the head coach. Because with Ben Johnson being a first-time head coach, what do we get always callers worrying about? Is he a true head coach? what is his answer at defense, just like we ask some of the defensive guys what's their answer at offense. Sure, you have the offensive side handled.
Got to be willing to pay top dollar.
I do not want them to say, we're paying Ben Johnson 12 or 15. Now we can skimp on the rest of the staff. I want them to pay the defensive coordinator, whether it's a Robert Saleh or he may be going back to San Francisco because they just fired their DC, or whoever. There's a lot of former head coaches who have been fired who have defensive coordinator capabilities. Pay that guy. Pay the quarterback's coach a lot of money. The offensive line coach should be a top-tier hire. Just because you hire a head coach and pay him, the coaching staff you need to pay for every coach you bring into the facility. It doesn't count against your cap, and don't stop short. Don't halfway it with just the head coach.
I think Kevin Warren is going to be instrumental in kind of opening that door and having them walk through it. I have felt for quite some time that there would be more willingness, I believe, from the McCaskies to pay top dollar than it would be to compromise their personality situation. Like, I still think they'll be uncomfortable with type A personalities in the building. I think they're more willing to give on the financial side. And I think Kevin Warren probably, it goes back to Courtney's article as well, saying the business is going to be done different. No more sitting in row 25 in seat D or E or wherever you would be anymore. You're going to be treated the way that all of the NFL head coaching prospects are going to be treated by the other teams in the league. And I think that is a direct Kevin Warren influence. So my guess is that he will kind of open all of their eyes up there that, hey, this is what it takes financially to get what you need. And in the grand scheme of things, it's just pennies on the dollar. It really is.
It is. It is. Like, think about all the high-priced players they got very little from.
Yes.
Or even if they do get something from them, it's one player. This is, you can probably pay your entire coaching staff what? $20 to $23 million?
Yeah. And again, last year, they I believe their reported revenue was close to $600 million total. Not just the national television revenue share, but all of their revenue was right at about $600 million. The asset has appreciated to the point where I guarantee you if they valued it because they wanted to sell between 8 and 10% like the Dolphins did or the Eagles did, you'd be north of what they were valued at, which was over $8 billion. So there's enough resources there, whether it's revenue or the value of your asset, that you shouldn't be worried about the cost of hiring a coach or his staff.
What'd they pay Montez Sweat last year for
$100 million?
No, last year. 25?
Oh,
is it?
yeah.
Is it a 4-year deal? Did he sign, or 5?
I don't know how many years it was, but I thought it was overall about a $100 million contract. So $25 million.
That's what. So like $25 million gets you an entire coaching staff. Gets you your DC, your OC, your quarterbacks coach, all the other coaches, and your head coach. And that's probably shooting high, too.
And if those guys put on the unis, they may be able to combine for 4.5 sacks as well.
That's right. He had 5, didn't he?
Okay, 5.
He stumbled into that last one because he was near the guy who tripped. Someone tripped in one of those last games.
The quarterback, I forget which quarterback it was.
Seattle,
that went
wasn't it?
I think, yes.
It was Geno.
Yeah, Geno. As he was trying to eject the pocket, I think he tripped over himself and went down.
And Montez moved quickly to make sure he was the one who touched him.
So he had 5.5.
He had last season he made just shy of $21 million. He had a cap hit of 25. So.
Yeah, $25 million. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't stop short. And I don't think they will. I
don't either.
My biggest worry in the entire coaching search here is the guy they want going to choose them?
Yes.
That's my entire worry. I guess it's 2 ways. Will they truly identify the best one? Because did they really put their best foot forward to Vrabel? Or were they saying, well, New England's going to get him? Or maybe he's not our top guy. And if they really, really want Ben Johnson, will Ben Johnson pick them?
That's been my biggest concern of all.
When you've got the Raiders job now and they blew out their general manager and he could go in with his own general manager, you've got New England, You've got Jacksonville. We were talking about the connection, too. A lot of people are talking about, could he bring Mark Brunell with him, who is the quarterback's coach in Detroit? He could be his OC/quarterback's coach wherever he goes next. Brunell obviously is a
Jacksonville legend.
Lifelong Jacksonville Jaguar. Now, I don't know how much that would influence Ben Johnson, but he certainly has intel on that franchise.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
I've always thought there, or at least over the last several weeks, I think the bigger hurdle is convincing the guy you want to take your job versus you actually even picking. Both bring risk, but I think it's going to be a more difficult sell than some think.
Michael in the West Loop, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Michael?
Hey, guys. I was just thinking, you ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to get the best guy for the job, and someone that's got head coaching experience, in my opinion. And I think that guy, David Shaw, from former Stanford coach, developed Super Bowl quarterback Rich Gannon, developed Josh Johnson, Andrew Luck, Davis Mills, another aggressive quarterback in the league, and then Tanner McKee, who's one of the better thought of backups there in Philadelphia. So that's just my thought, my opinion. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts. Thank you.
It's a tough sell for me. I mean, the last 4 years at Stanford, they couldn't find their way to the above 500 part of the standings. He was 4-8, 4-2 because of the COVID year, 3-9, 3-9, and he hasn't been a head coach since 2022. I know he's been. Who's he consulting with right now?
Broncos.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do know.
Wouldn't be my guy.
It's the same thing like with Kingsbury. Like you could say who Kingsbury has developed. Kingsbury didn't win enough for me. So he's a good OC. I thought maybe they should have hired him last year. Now, in retrospect, I don't know if I was pounding my fist on the table for Kingsbury even last year, but Kingsbury developed Mahomes. Kingsbury did a pretty good job, too, in Arizona as far as some offense here and there and developing the quarterback, but he doesn't win enough for me. So
it wouldn't be the route I'd take.
It is funny, though, how when people have their guys, they find every bullet point to put on their resume. Like, no offense, but Tanner McKee was the third-string quarterback in Philadelphia up until he had a nice half a couple of weeks ago. So let's slow our roll on developing Tanner McKee. Is one of the better.
And he said Davis Mills, too. So here's the poll. I just put the poll up at 3:01. It is 3:16. In 15 minutes, this bad boy got 1,400 votes. So we're averaging like 100 votes a minute almost. Would you be open to the Bears hiring Marcus Freeman as their head coach? Carmen and Yurko discussed it. Again, he's young, he's dynamic, he wins. He understands the spotlight being at Notre Dame. And as they were talking about, too, it's not – someone called and they said, well, look, he's taking some of the best talent. They recruit. But they don't have one 5-star recruit. They had, I think, the least amount of 4-star recruits out of any of the big-time programs as well. He's just developed these guys, and he's coached well, and he overcame adversity. Yes or no? And a lot of Notre Dame people, I think, are voting as well. No, because they don't want the Bears to take him. How many people think yes? And the question isn't, do you want him as your head coach? The question is, would you be open to Marcus Freeman as the Bears' next head coach?
40% are saying yes.
Mellor, you got a guess?
I think based in the Midwest, a lot of pro-Notre Dame folks, I think it's going to be open, far more likely. I'll say 63%.
Ooh.
Well, I bet Notre Dame fans don't want to lose their coach.
Right. Yeah.
I would say 20% say yes.
Yeah, I think Waddle was right in that sweet spot, and he was very close. 36.5% say yes, and 63.5% say no. Again, he wouldn't be atop my list.
He wouldn't, and mine either.
I think, again, you can get me to rally in the spring and buy in a little bit because this is what you do. You've kicked me a few times. You throw me a dog treat, and I'm starting to wag my tail again as I made that analogy yesterday that I'm like the Bears dog.
Just don't go on the corner and lick yourself, okay?
No,
At least not until after 6:30.
That's the best part about being the dog.
Not on the air, though.
So it's interesting. Well, I want to know your thoughts too on this. Was a debate today I saw this morning. Who do you blame for the Penn State turnover late? The quarterback, the coach, that they were going for it and trying in James Franklin, and I think he's like 1 in 14 or 1 in 15 against teams in the top 5 now. Who that it was a terrible interception. It was just under a minute, and they were trying to push the ball downfield to get into field goal range. And then the interception gets Notre Dame into field goal range, and then they push it and really make it a closer field goal, just over 40 yards, and they win it. Who's your blame?
I personally put it on the quarterback. I thought it was a bad read, a bad throw. It was way too risky. You can tell the guy, hey, listen, these are the circumstances and there's no situation where you need to take an enormous risk, and that's what he did. He didn't get any help from his receiver either, but I would say the quarterback.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I thought, Dusty Dvorak did a really nice job on SVP of breaking it down afterwards, showing that, and I think it was
there was no reason.
It was
to throw it.
McElroy too on the broadcast pointed out you just can't make that throw late over the middle of the field.
Well, he was being pressured
spot
at the time too, wasn't he? I mean, like he was coming out of a situation. It just was not a good foundation. His feet weren't set. It just wasn't a good read, a good throw. None of it was good.
Did you guys hear, too, in the post, I thought it was interesting, he was talking about how he was trying to dirt it.
Right, trying to throw it at his feet.
I know, but the whole idea of dirting it in the middle of the field is not even a concept.
Yeah, I think he was trying to come up with a rationale on why he made that such a bad throw. But I agree with you. I think James Franklin has become such a guy that people go after for losing to big programs and the big moments that it's easy to point the finger and say, you should have been playing for overtime. You shouldn't have been like I'll always remember this moment, and I was at the game. Do you remember when John Madden was saying about the Patriots and Tom Brady in his first Super Bowl that Tom Brady and the Patriots should not be pushing the ball, that they should
Madden
play.
was wrong. Yeah.
They should go for overtime, that he didn't like it. And sure enough, they were able to work the ball downfield, and Vinatieri knocked in, and it was their first Super Bowl ever.
Yeah.
And
I remember, I don't remember that when it happened, but I did see a highlight of this, ironically, several months ago, where John Madden was being very critical of their approach.
Yeah, Belichick and deciding to go for it. You've got to, I think the opposite would have happened, that if they would have taken a knee and played for overtime and lost, people would have said, hey, you have a timeout left. I think they had 1 at the time, and you've got time left on the clock.
You're never going to catch me apologizing for James Franklin, but I don't think he made a mistake here. I appreciate his aggressiveness.
Yeah, go for it. Try to push the ball and win it in regulation. That's a player execution.
And by the way, the officials were in the tank for Penn State as well, so you could have hoped for a pass interference call as well. I disagreed totally with who was it that was doing the game other than Sean?
McElroy.
Yeah, I think you leave that flag in your pocket.
The one in the end zone?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought Austin said the same thing. The official in the booth said that was a textbook call.
Yeah, I thought it was awful. I thought it was
really
horrible.
Why?
Yeah, I didn't think there was enough contact, and I thought it was grossly overthrown, and the tight end was never going to catch it. I thought it was a bad call. Yeah, I didn't think it was. He was not. I don't even think
play. The defender, the interception was almost happening as he was not. I know he didn't turn his head around. Had he got his head around,
No, but that's not a rule in college,
right?
Not getting your head around.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
I
correct.
thought it was a bad call. I did.
Okay.
I mean, I think it was kind of 50-50. I saw some people who thought it was a good call and other people who thought it was a bad call. But in that situation, again,
just
what you
on
did
who
is you rewarded a quarterback for a crappy throw. That ball was never going to be caught by the tight end. I would almost compare it to sometimes when they call the uncatchable ball over your head and they tell you that that's the reason why they didn't call a penalty. I thought it was a keep it in your pocket.
Okay.
Play.
Pat in Burr Ridge, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Pat?
Hey, first of all, Tom, I agree with you what you said about the pass interference call in the end zone. I'm an executive search consultant who's followed Notre Dame my entire life. I know a lot of former captains. Marcus Freeman is very happy at Notre Dame. He's a great college coach. He's paid extremely well. He can influence young men, something you can't do as easily in the NFL. I think the Bears need to go after an NFL offensive-minded head coach, just like you had suggested, and hopefully they make the right decision.
Is your guy Ben Johnson, Pat?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you sound like a smart guy.
I think Pat makes a great point about Marcus Freeman as well. Maybe Marcus Freeman would translate to the NFL and be a fabulous coach. He has found such a sweet spot with where he's at right now that I don't know that. And again, it's obviously his decision. It's what he feels, but it just feels like he's in a perfect spot.
I wouldn't put any barriers on him though, and say that he can't be an NFL guy.
No, I wouldn't either.
Who's to know?
I just at this point for me, if you're someone that wants a coach that has head coaching experience in the NFL, he doesn't have that.
Right.
He's not an offensive coach.
Right. And
he
who
doesn't
are
have
your
that.
connections for I know they have good college coordinators. Who are your connections for coordinators?
Yeah.
Too?
I just don't think it solves your problem. So
312-332-3776. Let's talk to Tom Thayer coming up next. What was his pulse like last night? The heart rate back and forth. Was he living and dying? Does he live and die on every play for Notre Dame like he does in the Bears booth?
I think he's very stoic.
You think? No. Do you think
he's Notre Dame stoic?
You do think he's more calm watching a Notre Dame game than he is a Bears game?
Probably because he expects them actually to do something good at Notre Dame, whereas here you're always on the edge of your seat waiting for the next shoe to drop.
It's been a long time, though, for them, too. So we'll talk to Thayer coming up next and get his thoughts on the Bears and wrap up the season coming up next.